grew up in a Catholic home, but it was living in the 60s and 70s. I found other interests in college and whatnot. But at the end of college and graduate school, I started to realize I was living a kind of an inconsistent life, and I'd seen the witness of people with committed religious lives, committed to the Lord, and was drawn to that, and I allowed myself to be evangelized by them, and realized that I really needed to get serious and commit my life to the Lord, which I did in graduate school, and it changed the direction of my life. And so I was very involved with prayer groups in the church on campus. This was in Madison, Wisconsin, and I knew from the beginning I really needed community support. So right from the very beginning, I was always involved with Christian households and living with other Christians and being involved with a prayer group, and because I just needed that support. And I was quite happy in that life. It was quite an active life. I was leading prayer meetings and doing retreats and evangelization and that sort of thing, and still working as a research scientist. And I was at one of these conferences that the Lord just called me very clearly, that He let me know that He was calling me to religious life. You know, it was like someone pushed me, and it was like, "What are you talking about?" I hadn't been thinking about that at all. It was not in my consciousness at all, but it was very clear He was calling me there. I was drawn to communities that were rural. Nature and outdoors has always spoken to me of God. So I started out, I was at a community down south where they had their own gardens and a small farm, and I lived there for several years, and it was just I headed up the garden there and had the chance to milk cows by hand, and it was just that hidden life that really appealed to me, and I liked that. I realized I was getting a little absorbed in my work, and I really needed help with the discipline of maintaining the monastic practices. And I was familiar with Cistercians just through the teaching that I received there. And so I started visiting some Cistercian houses. And the simplicity of their life appealed to me. I grew up in Minnesota, so the black soil of the Midwest always appealed to me, and so here we are in Iowa. So I had visited New Melleray several times, and so the farm and the fields and the forest all around just really appealed to me. This was sort of home for me. And during my initial visits, I could see that there were monks here, there were men here that had lived the life for a long time. It was an old community, an established community, an established tradition that could supply the discipline that I knew I needed to keep me on track and to keep me focused toward God. So I decided this was the place for me. For me, one of the beautiful things about life in a community or a monastery is that things are integrated. In my life before, I was always pulled in different directions. You would work in one place, and then you had church activities in your personal life, and they were frequently in conflict. We're in a monastic setting, the work you do and the church you go to and the people that you're with are all the same people. I didn't mind giving up things. I guess that was part of where I could see that this was a natural fit. I didn't think about it beforehand, but material possessions weren't all that important to me. Career wasn't all that important to me. I enjoyed what I was doing, but I was living a fairly simple lifestyle anyway. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. Just put it that way. And the work we do is also important to me, and it's a way of reaching out in a hidden way. I work at Trappist Caskets. And boy, when death comes, it's such it makes us realize what's important, really, in life. Our life is filled with so much frivolous things and things that don't really important. But when a close one dies, or when we're facing death ourselves, we realize, what am I here for? God created me, and He's going to call me back to Himself, and what I do with my life is important. Probably one of the reasons I came here is because I needed that rhythm. I like working with my hands. I like working outside, and I can be consumed by it very easily. I get really absorbed in my work. And so the rhythm of 7 times a day breaking from that work to come together to pray together is a discipline that's important, of sanctifying the day by those prayer hours, by the early morning prayer time, quiet time alone. God speaks to me in nature, so just the quietness of the setting is important to me. The foundation is an unrealization that I was created by God. I was His idea, not mine. And He put me here for a purpose. It's just fulfilling God's call. And that's where God speaks to us. When we quiet the chatter of other people and try to quiet the chatter of our own mind, then we can hear God. He speaks to us in many ways, but it's usually a quiet voice. And sometimes for me, it's the quiet in nature, out in the woods. It's just the birds and the sound of the creek. And He'll speak to me through what I see and an inner voice. But we're here, listening is more important than speaking. And that's the whole basis of monastic life. It's how the rule begins. Listen, my son. So we're here to listen to God in order to, what He says is most important and most edifying and most corrective and encouraging. And you just need some silence, need some space to hear that, to know what you're going to do with your life.